It's terrific to be at NASA, and I'm very excited. I want to thank Steve and Omar for giving me this opportunity to come in and speak with you. So one of the things I want to talk with you about today, I was in the Navy for a little over 10 years. I've been doing innovation for almost 30, 20 of that as an attorney. And we're doing startup innovation inside of Silicon Valley. Sometimes it's what you think it is, and sometimes it's really not what you think it is. And one of the things that I think has become kind of the hot button for me, and one of the reasons I love to be on the road, I talk a lot in some of the, not New York, not Boston, not San Francisco, which is all of our other cities, in Baltimore, in Louisville, Chicago, Milwaukee, Houston, Austin, Kansas City, Milwaukee. You can just keep going, Salt Lake City. They all have something fantastic that they just don't know how to unlock, but we need them to unlock it, and we need to release them. And so a lot of what I find is that we get kind of neck down, like we think all of our ideas are going to come from 3 cities, and that's just not going to do it. So it means we really have a problem with our perspective. And when our perspective starts to neck down, we start closing off options. And if you don't have a perspective that is a framework that includes everything that your company needs, if you don't have all the different points of view. I do a lot with cross-functional teams, working at Stanford with the biodesign program for the last, roughly 15 years. Even before they had the marketing insight to call it biodesign, we were doing innovation and thinking differently about how we brought together innovation within the healthcare system, within medical devices. So our perspective had to change to embrace how you get into that regulated industry. So you can imagine if your perspective is off. So let's say, for example, this was what your perspective of a tiger was. So you would think that a tiger is all fur and no teeth, but actually you'd be very surprised when you first engaged a tiger and saw the business end of a tiger. So one of the things that I like to think about is that, in blinders, when you get that perspective, that's probably okay for horses, but it's not really good for a team. Unless that team has already done the deep work, the kind of things we're going to be talking about here today over the next couple of days, and whenever the team is really ready to go, then blinders are great. But in the beginning, blinders can actually be the thing that will lead to the chief failure mode for your company. So this is what we want. This is a simplification of the biodesign program. A specialist, the person that really understands that market we're going into. Engineers, because we're physical beings in a physical world. We need to have the basic technology to make things that we're going to use. And then there's got to be a business case. We heard about that in the last panel. We don't remember the inventor, but we sure as heck remember the person that commercialized it. And most of the time, this is one where I do a lot with university entrepreneurs, and that's basically engineers with shiny objects. And engineers with shiny objects are very interesting, but they're not good businesses. And so it's the business case is typically the failure mode. But this is what we tried to do for the last 15 years. But the reality is it looks more like this. And it's splintering, literally splintering. When I was a semiconductor guy in the 90s, we called it MEMS, micromachining. Now it's called nanotechnology. And you actually have all these different kinds of, as things get more hyper-technical, we're finding that it's even harder and harder. The electrical engineer really didn't ever want to talk to the material scientist anyway, but now they have to sit there, and then there's somebody else that's with them that has this completely other different technology background that they're bringing in. Maybe, God forbid, you have to work with a chemist. So now, how do those people even talk to each other? One of the things I would love to do is track a college, a university, and just actually see whether or not engineers, physicists, chemists, the poor people that are actually in the English department, whether they actually ever intersect, or if you just watch them go, they're dormed to their classroom, and the engineers are all over here, and the chemists are over here, the physicists are over here, and they actually never intersect. But then somehow, miraculously, when their job is on the line, when their bonus is on the line, we expect them to get together and talk and share. And don't even get me started about the big red box, which is digitalization, the Internet of Things, which I think is terrifying a lot of people. So what I want us to think about is how can we, let's just try to change that. How can we find a different perspective, a different framework that will help us, make sure that we keep all those different perspectives in mind. And for a lot of you, we're all innovation kind of people, so what if people? So one of the things that, the one that I want us to think about is a statue that I love. It's one of my favorites. So let's try to take this, our idea, our new innovation, whatever that project is, think if you can, let's call it a statue. And I'm going to use the statue of Charlemagne. So this is actually Charlemagne. It's the Roland and Oliver are the two knights with him. This is actually just out front of Notre Dame in Paris. It's at the Battle of Roncesvalles, and they're all killed. Now, what I think is interesting, though, is if you look at it, Roland actually has a horn. It's an elephant tusk. It's called an oliphant. And so what was supposed to happen is that if things went sideways, you blow the horn. And they get, and Charlemagne will come back. So, but they gave it to the wrong guy because, we see the giant spear that Oliver has. Oliver, also very capable knights, and I'm not here to take anything away from chivalry and that they were great warriors. But, they really gave the horn to the wrong guy. I can just imagine this was probably one of the first times in history whenever, there they are, they're in the middle of the battle, there's people are just coming everywhere. Just completely out of the woodwork. It was really that bad of an ambush. And Roland is the one, probably the first guy in history going, hey, I've got this, right? Typical male response, I've got this. And then Oliver's over there going, hey, buddy, I lost count at 100,000. I think you may want to use the horn. So that's where that's typical. The men don't show any sign, but that's how we think. We always think we're going to be the one that's going to solve the problem. And the reality is that one of the other reasons I love this, not to mention it's got three, I've got a thing about troikas and threes, but the other one too is that that's the same response that we see inside, for myself, a lot of the startups that I work with, they've got too much Roland. They think they're going to just gut it out. And there's a point whenever pivoting is just, you're going from one bad thing to a horrible thing, and you just need to stop. So, this would be one to check. Make sure the person that's actually got the panic button is actually the person that would actually have the sense to use it. So if we were going to change our perspective and try to get this and understand it, if we went and looked at what's out there, we would never really see much. This is what Google Images search is. If you wanted to see Charlemagne, you're not going to really get much perspective. That's not going to help us. This is our idea. How can we get our idea where we can actually use it? Okay, so if we went and borrowed the drones, or if we got JJ to give us, we're going to go task some satellites, this is what it's going to look like. It's actually, so the beautiful, they may want to fix some of the tiles at the roof at Notre Dame, but actually it's underneath all those trees, so, going overhead's not going to work. If we try to walk around it, damn trees. So we're still not able to see it. So how can we get our ideas out where we can see them? We need a different framework. How can we change that perspective? So we remember what these guys can do, and we want to put them in a place where we can see them. So we pluck it out of there. So my first artistic license, I'm going to pluck this out of Don't Tell the People of Paris. And I made one change. We gave Roland a shield, and we've pulled it out. Now we've got it off. Now our idea is off by itself, so now we can see it. So we still have the spear. I made it a little bit bigger, but it's still there. I want to put it into a roundabout. So a roundabout, I think, is a very interesting way to have something in the middle, but then all the different perspectives can come around it. So we've got one lane comes right in on Charlemagne, and then one in on Roland and on Oliver. So there's an idea that I also want us to think about is the things that are outside of our enterprise and the things that are inside of our enterprise. You notice here that there's 7 lanes, and there's 3 of them that are lined up on on Roland, on Oliver, on Charlemagne, and that's not incidental. That's from Peter Drucker, and he talked about 7 sources of innovation. So that's where our 7 spokes come from. This is actually what Drucker had. Now, you can see there are 3 that are aligned to the outside of the organization, and then there's other 4 that are actually inside the organization. So the unexpected, the incongruity, process need, industry and market changes, all of those are within your company and what you do. Outside of your organization, the changes and demographics and new knowledge. So there are 7 of these different sources of innovation. You'll notice that if we go back to our map, I put that in front of Roland. So that's new knowledge. I think most companies need a shield from new knowledge. So now if you've done this, we've got our idea, we've plucked it off, we've put it in our roundabout, but now we're the only ones that know about it. So how are we going to share this? How are we going to take this new insight that we've got? We've moved it to a place, we've got a roundabout that's going to make sure we keep all of our different perspectives in place. So we need a different way to share it. You could do something like this. It could be fun. I think I'd like to be the guy in the sidecar. But you could get that, get everybody together. It's be very quaint. There's a lot of Europeans here, so this has got sort of the European way you could do it. And it's very leisurely. This is probably the more American way you may want to do it. Although I think while everyone does get to pedal and exercise, it does actually encourage a lot of drinking, which, who knows, maybe the second or third time around the roundabout, you might be seeing things a little bit differently. Or you could do this. You could be a very large, powerful red bus, and we're doing push-ups because we're doing the most powerful innovation. But then the British people, oh, you're spilling my tea. Oh, you made my crumpet break. But I do like the red Decker. I do like that. And it is the one we should use. So let's think about what we can do. The inside of it is closed off. So when we're on the roundabout, this is what it's going to look like. We talked before about, are you going to let people in to see the core, to see the mothership? Probably not. But you can certainly have this. On the downstairs, this could be all the insiders. You're able to show them the perspective that you want and yet have that privacy and confidentiality that you need. The top is open. So on the upper deck, it looks kind of like this. This is where you can bring in all those different perspectives. The other thing I love about the big red bus, you've got those little outside stairs. So it's really easy to get on board. That's another one too. You want to make it easy to get those different perspectives, to get those different inputs. So this is what your roundabout will end up looking like. All of your different lanes, they're all populated. Who lives there? Who's on Engineering Avenue? Who's on Designer Way? What do they look like? What do those houses look like? Maybe one side of the street are the people that are friendly to you. The other side of the street are the people maybe you don't know so well. So let's go back to our model. We got our outside view, we got our inside view. And now this is what I think it looks like for intellectual property. On the outer side there, the things that are outside, I label them as neutral IP and then friendly IP. And remember who's standing over there, right? That's where we've got, on that side we've got Oliver and then Charlemagne. So, your friendly stuff, that's coming into your king. That's your king. That's your, whatever your intellectual property is. And then the neutral IP, there are people they're friendly, maybe. Maybe they're going to be partners down the road. But remember that's where Oliver is, and Oliver has a very big spear. And then finally, we look at the shield and the adversarial IP. So this is where, again, you've got 6 lanes that help you continue to fortify whatever it is that's going to come at you. But if you remember to have this framework and you remember to bring things together, you will always be strengthening that. So whatever comes at you, you'll be much better able to handle it. So this is I just launched a blog a couple of months back. So I talk about things like this. Some of the first things I wrote about were a glass-blowing artist named Dale Chihuly. And I think that's another area where bringing in different perspectives and looking at the way artists do things can actually be a lot of fun and help you bring more innovation to your programs. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks a lot.